Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast with me and Lori McMurphy. I can introduce myself first. I'm Matilda Lerge, and I am a healer and energy intuitive, and I have awakened to you. And today I'm here with I was about to say good old friend, Lori McMurphy. We are actually only friends for around 3 years in this human experience, but I feel like I've known her forever. Lori McMurphy is an amazing person. She is spiritually awakened and she has two amazing boys. And she's a stay-at-home mom. And then she's a channeler of divine wisdom. And the reason why I wanted to talk to Lori today is because, first of all, she's really an awesome person. And she's one of the people that you really want to know more about and want to know how did she arrive where she is now. And I've been in her life for some really exciting years in her life where she opened up the channel and started to channel for groups and do private sessions, which she's really amazing at. And what I wanted to talk to Lori about today and share with all of you is her awakening experience and how it is to be an awakened mom of two boys with 10 years in between. So I'm also curious to know how different it was to raising the first boy in contrast to now where she's more awakened, and also how it all came about with the channeling and the opening up to that gift. So welcome, Lori.
Oh, thank you, Matilda. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah. Is there anything more you want to say about you before I start asking you lots of questions?
Well, I'm excited for the questions, and I think I'll just add my website to that if people want to know more about me or to contact me. The best way is through my website, and that is www.lorimcmurphycoaching.com, and that's the best place to get in touch with me. So that's all I'll add for that. But the rest was absolutely wonderful, and thank you for all of that.
Yeah, and we will add the website in the text with this podcast so people can connect with you directly and also read more about your group calls and your sessions and all that, because it's really exciting.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what I want to ask you first, when did you awaken? When was your awakening experience taking place? The first one, because sometimes we have more than one.
Yes. Well, I would say that mine began probably around 2001. And that was when my plans that I had for myself, for my life, started slowly falling away. And I would say that continued on in my life until around 2012. So in 2012, I found channeled material for the first time and consciously connected with that. So I would say that was about the span where that began, of the old falling away and my human ego self realizing that she wasn't going to go on the path that she had thought she was going to go down. And things changed for me massively between 2001 and 2012. And I would say that it's quite an adventure and quite a journey because it keeps going deeper. And so I wouldn't say, like what you just said, it's not done yet. Like it keeps expanding and it keeps unfolding and it keeps opening up and keeps going deeper. So it has been a tremendous ride, and I don't think it's over. And luckily, I don't think it's ever going to be over. I think we're going to continue to expand and it's going to continue to unfold and continue to go deeper for all of us.
Yeah, that's so amazing, Lori. And you were actually quite young back then in 2001, because I know you're in your mid-30s now. So how old were you when that was happening? And what was the plans for your life that you had?
Right. Well, I was 16 in 2001. I was 16 years old. And so I really relate to your podcast of the young and awakening, because I feel like that was me. I was very young and awakening. And my human plans for myself was, well, honestly, since the time I was small, like my family had a plan for me. It was like, you're going to go to school, you're going to get good grades, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a good job, you're going to make lots of money. You're going to follow the stereotypical plan of what a good life would be. And that would look like being married and having a family and a good job with lots of money. And that was the plan. That was what I was going to do and how I was going to contribute in the world. And my parents kind of had a plan for me about what job I would do and what degree program would be a good idea for me. And I was supposed to be a good girl and follow that path. And things just slowly started to fall away for me, like what I had intended for the way for things to unfold, just it went in a different direction. And I ended up, instead of well, I did go to college, but instead of finishing college, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and that was not really along the path that was preordained for me. Although now I know that nothing went wrong with any of it, and I'm exactly on the path that I'm supposed to be, and everything has worked out every step along the way. But that was really the plans that I had for my life, was it's going to look like this, and this is the timeline, and this is how it's going to unfold, and when it's going to unfold. And yeah, it unfolded completely differently than that. And it was luckily the exact right pacing for things to fall away. And it all unfolded exactly right. I can tell you that looking back, but when I was in it, it felt like a disaster. It felt like out of control, and that I had no idea where I was going or why it was happening.
Yeah, I also remember you said you had like your children planned out, that then at that age you wanted to have one, and then there had to be these years in between, and it happened quite differently than that for you, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I had their names picked out, and I had their ages picked out, and I had a rough idea of when I wanted to get married and who I wanted to get married to, and all of that. I had that all mapped out, and it was all mapped out, including like when I was going to get my job and where it was going to be and where we would live and what the house would look like. I had it all envisioned for myself, and none of that came to be, even down to where I thought I was going to go to college. That ended up being different as well. So the universe and source, God energy, had a different plan for me for sure. So
yeah, and what was the gift you felt that was opening up to? I also remember when we talked earlier that you talked about what you were feeling as a child, your experience of being a child, and your abilities back then was actually quite similar to what you suddenly found yourself opening up to again, but now just from a very different state. Now you had to remember it.
yes, yeah, I would say that it is a remembering. And also, like with all the data and information I collected along the way, now I consciously know what I'm doing and why it works. So as a kid, I felt like I really felt like I was just being. I wasn't doing things intentionally or to make anything happen, but I just naturally found myself doing the things that brought me joy. And I was really, really gifted in meditation and visualization. And at the time, I wouldn't have called it that at all. I just spent time envisioning things that I wanted to envision because it felt good to me. And I would receive visions and ideas and inspirations all the time. But that was just from being in that place of being open and allowing and focused on the things that brought me joy. And as a kid too, like I was really good at I called it creative writing, and now I would call it channeled writing. And so I really was gifted in that arena. It's funny because looking back through my school years, the things that my teachers pointed out as my natural gifts and abilities, it's like looking back, I can really see how those were natural gifts and abilities with the writing and being creative and having lots of ideas and inspirations, and with language arts, like having really a good skill and interest in words and what they mean and how to put them together. And so those are natural gifts that I use now. It's just that I took an adventure away from it, and then I'm remembering and coming back home to it, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah, and is there something you're really good at that I'm thinking of? That is, you're really extremely good at creating now. Sorry, creating in the formless and navigating this whole process of creation. You're really master of that. I really admire that in you. And that's so great to follow how you can actually.
Thank you.
To follow how you can actually create all these experiences in your life from a formless state and really navigate this. And that is also why it's also fun to think of this whole having things mapped out in your awakening where things were not going as you wanted to because it came from another place and was a part of your awakening. I'm just thinking about that right now because now you're really extremely good at creating the things you would like to experience.
Yeah, and so much of that is coming back to my innocence. I can really say that clearly, that the mastery in that is allowing it to come from my innocence and really tapping into really what the soul's desires are behind the human desires. So releasing that attachment to my human desires versus really tapping into what the deeper desires are in the formless realm, because I can have those right now. And there's no need for that gap or separation. And I will say that those plans that fell away were coming from my ego, personality, human self all the way. They were really coming from that place and from that feeling like it needs to be this way for it to be okay. Whereas if I look at what I was actually being guided into, there's nothing missing. There was nothing that I desired in my heart that isn't here now. It just looks different than what my human had mapped out. And so to really remember that I don't have to be that specific and I don't have to map it out and make it happen and force it into being, that I really can tap into that essence of the desire and then allow it to come into form. That's the key. That's really a big key.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really amazing, Lori, because I was just feeling that as you just said that, the feeling about, yeah, so all the things that falls away are really the things that were not aligned to your heart's desire, which is something you learned was right. This is what you're supposed to have in this experience. But you had you had your awakening beginning when you were 16. And when were you giving birth to your first son, your oldest one?
I had my first son in 2008. So I was, I think, 22 when I had him. Oh, that's kind of fun. I was 22 when I had my first son, and I was 33 when I had my second.
Of course.
So,
master numbers.
some divine timing there for sure.
Yeah. Had they just told you that before? Yeah. That's funny. Oh, yeah. And how was that? So you were on your awakening path, but you said in 2012, that was like where it really opened up. So it was just before that he was born.
Yeah. So, and bless his heart, I think he came in as one of my biggest teachers. And I'm so glad that he's a part of my experience here and that I get to be part of his. And he really has helped me and was a big catalyst in my awakening, because that really deepened my desires to figure it out and, quote unquote, from a human perspective, get my life together, because I felt like I was going to be stepping into, and at the time I didn't have the words of a guide and a way shower, but that was really the intention I held for my kids, that I was going to get here first and figure some stuff out and then be a shining light to guide them through their lives and be an example of what's possible for them in their lives. And when I had my first son, I didn't feel like I had it together. I still felt pretty lost and pretty confused. I was still in the midst of that, everything that I thought I wanted falling away, and I hadn't really found my path quite yet, although I know now I wasn't really off my path. But at the time, I felt like I was still looking for my path and I was still trying to figure it out. And when I had this little bitty baby, I felt like I really needed to get it together, because as he got bigger, he was going to ask me questions and I wasn't going to know the answers. And how can I guide him if I don't know how to guide myself? And so he really inspired me to start looking more seriously and to start digging into the deeper questions that I had and to try and find answers for myself, so that when he got older and had those questions that I had in life, that I would have something to say other than, gosh, kid, I don't know.
Did you feel that this is so good, Lori? Did you feel that he came with some special abilities? That was higher abilities?
Yes. Yes, for sure. And I know that more looking back now than I did at the time, because I think at the time I was so disconnected from my own spiritual gifts, I hadn't really remembered what they were. And I will say that too, that in my experience, my gifts were not celebrated. In the family that I came into, And just the world I came into, they weren't celebrated. It was more something like, well, that was great when you were a kid, but now it's time to be serious. Now it's time to buckle down and focus into the world and make some things happen, you know? And so looking back, like with my older son and his gifts and his abilities, he is extremely sensitive. And especially for a boy, you'd think that that's not a gift, that that's something he needs to outgrow. But I've really allowed him to be sensitive because I know that that is a gift. He is sensitive to the energies within himself and to the energies of the others around him. And he is very kind-hearted and very caring. Like, he has one of the purest hearts that I think I've ever seen. And so those are tremendous gifts. And he's also very clear with who he is and what he likes. And so those are also really good gifts. And so I've really tried to stay open and to encourage him and to guide him, but not to tell him this is who you should be, this is the right way to be, but to let him find his path. And I think what I'm opening up to even more now is knowing that he's not off his path, that he's not going to get off his path, that he's solidly on his path and has guidance just like I do.
That's so beautiful, Lori. I really love that. And I also remember how you talked about, you said many times that you were really so moved by the relationship he has to his little brother. You thought they had to be close in order for a relationship, but really, though there's many years in between them, he's really so kind and loving to his little brother. And that's so beautiful too. And yeah. I wonder if you could share with us that experience, because as you said, you wanted them to be close, you had them all planned out, but it took longer than you had expected for the second one. How was that whole experience for you?
That experience was really humbling for me. So my second son is even probably a greater teacher for me in terms of letting go and trusting divine orchestration and divine timing. Because I thought I had it all figured out yet again, that I knew this channeled wisdom and I knew how the laws of the universe worked and I knew creation and it should be easy. I'll just open up and allow and boom, everything I want will come in. And that was a big desire that I had. And it was very humbling because I had a timeline and an expectation. I opened the floodgates and said, all right, let's go, let's have another baby. And it just didn't unfold the way that I thought it should in the time that I thought it should. And at that time, I was more connected. And so it was really a deepening journey for me as far as tapping into my guidance and seeing what is going on with this and why is it not working the way that I think it should. And the answers that I got is like, yes, a baby's coming. Yes, it's going to be a boy, but no, it's not going to be when you think it's going to be. And that was very humbling for my human and really part of my coming into my mastery of how to create and what my role is in creation and really how to trust and how to allow. Because, and again, that's from my perspective now looking back. In the time, I thought something was going wrong and I was very frustrated. I thought, this shouldn't be so hard. Like, why am I struggling with this so much? Like, what is going on? Am I not worthy? What is happening here? And it was all part of my journey and my path. And to see them here together now, it's like, oh, yeah, that was the plan. And oh, yeah, that was the timing. And yeah, that is the best unfolding for all of us. And a lot of things changed between the time that I decided that I was ready to bring him into the world and the time that he actually decided to come into the world. A lot changed and a lot of my physical conditions around me changed. We moved into a different house and there was a lot of changes that happened. So even that, I would say in hindsight, was divinely timed and orchestrated. But from my human perspective at the time, I was frustrated and felt like something was going wrong. So
yeah. And how do you see now your second boy? How is it different to be a mother of him just because of his personality, but also now that you're more awakened?
Yeah, his personality is different than my older son's personality. And so it's really fun seeing them as the unique individuals that they are. And so it's also humbling to not think that I have it all figured out because I've done this one time, with my older son. Like, this is a new adventure with my younger son and with my older son, and they're unique individual adventures. So that's been really fun. And now that I'm further on this path, like, I am so much more relaxed and chilled out. Like, I really know the mastery of my older son and of my younger son. And I don't have that worry and that angst that I had when my older son was born. I felt like I needed to be in control with my older son, that I needed to figure it out ahead of him because I was driving the bus and he was riding on the bus. So I really need to master my driving of the bus. And now it's like I look over and it's like I've got a master co-creator here. Like, it's not me leading them down the path. Like, they are masters themselves. And I really know that now, and I see it that way. And it's really fun to do this a second time around and see my toddler as a master instead of as this little being that I'm responsible for and I have to take care of and I have to figure it out and keep him safe. It's like I really know that it's more of a co-creative dance. And in that, there's a relaxation within me the second time around that I didn't have the first time. But it's all perfect because it was, as much as I am in their journeys and guiding them, they're in my journeys and they're guiding me just as much. As it's like co-creative and equality, not one over the other, the way that I thought it was. I thought as the parent, I was in charge, and I'm learning very much from them that we're equally in charge and that we are co-creating and collaborating together through this experience. We're not in charge of each other.
That's so amazing, Lori. And I'm also just curious about the smallest one. Do you feel that he has some abilities that are new here on Earth, or how does it look to you?
Yeah, he is. To me, it seems like he's really advanced. He seems like a soul that came in and hit the ground running. And I think that's why he wanted to wait for this time. I think he was very deliberate in the timing of his arrival and the unfolding of his life experience. And he has really specific preferences of what he wants to do. And he has so much enthusiasm for his experiences here in form. Like, I can just tell within him that he's excited to be here and excited to be in a body, and he wants to explore and he wants to get out in the world and he wants to create. Like, he is very curious and very advanced as far as like his motor skills. Like, he was able to open like lotion bottles when he was a baby, and it's like, I don't think that's supposed to be like that. Like, as far as baby proofing, he's very intuitive in that way and very gifted in that way. He can figure out how things work, and he's able to do things that I wouldn't think he would be able to do quite yet. So that's going to be a really exciting thing to watch unfold for him. And he is also, we had talked about this, you and I, about how he is gifted and able to communicate what he wants without using language. And so I think he's opening up possibilities and potentials with that as well. He's starting to talk more and more, but he just doesn't seem to feel that need to communicate necessarily with language, because he's able to communicate with all of us with his intentions, with his energy. So that's really exciting to watch that unfold too.
Yeah, wow, that's so amazing, Lori. And just when you talk about that he has so much direction already and so much speed in his way of coming into life, what just comes to me is like, I have felt in a lot of children lately that I've been working with, some of the very young children, they come without a karma, and they come purely to create and to be enjoying their own creation. So it's like this blast of expansion they come in with. And that sounds a bit like him, I would say. They're not here to experience limitation in the same way, or go through these deep experience of suffering that many of us grown-ups have chosen to explore and expand the human experience. It's like they come in and they just want to create and expand. And I find this really amazing. You feel that they know that they are master creators from the moment they step in on Earth. Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how it unfolds, and to be able to hold it with an open palm and just relax and enjoy him and his mastery, that's going to be such an amazing experience, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, and then you know why he chose you very deliberately.
Right?
You chose each other
there.
because
I just got to give her a couple more years.
yeah, until she loosens that grip a little more. Yeah.
Right?
But Lori, now I think it's time for us to know what about the channeling. How did that come about? When did you start doing that? And when did you start sharing it with others? Was it like an easy, smooth ride, or did you resist a little? I think I know the answer to that, but I think many would like to hear about it.
Yes. So with the channeling, especially with writing, I was again tapped into that since I was small. I just didn't have the language to explain what was happening and why it worked. I just always got the feedback that I was a really good writer, and it just flowed through me is the way that I would have explained it back a long time ago. And then once I found channeled writing, I kind of connected the dots that, you know, with the channeling, that's what I was doing when I was writing. So I started to equate that with that languaging. And I would say, again, once I found the channeled materials back in 2012, that was when I had kind of tapped into writing again for myself and opening up to the higher levels of consciousness in the formless realms and source God energy and letting that flow through to answer my own questions. Because again, I was kind of focused there at the time that I wanted to answer these big questions so that when my kids would ask me questions, I would have something to say and something of value to contribute. And so I had kind of opened back up to that within myself. And that was pretty easy and pretty effortless, but was also something that I wasn't saving and wasn't keeping. I was really allowing that to be an in the moment kind of thing. And I would write when I needed to. I knew that it was always there, but it wasn't something that I was doing deliberately or on purpose or that I ever intended to share with anyone else. And so fast forward to 2020, around June, so halfway through 2020, I was in a group, and one of the things the group was talking about is our spiritual gift. And I sort of blurted out that I can do channeled writing, that I don't know that I have any gifts, but I can do channeled writing for myself. And one of the women in my group reached out to me after that call and was like, can you channel for me? And I was like, I don't think it works that way. And she was like, well, do you want to try? No pressure. If nothing comes through, it's not a big deal. And so I decided that, yeah, I'll go ahead and try it. I've never tried it. And so I sat down and opened up my channeling, and 12 pages of messages came through for her. And so she told a friend who asked me to channel for her. And so I did that. And then I got 11 pages for that friend. And then I started to open it up to my closer small group of people that I'm in contact with. And I started doing one-on-one sessions for audible channeling, which was different. That was a leap. Throughout my writing for channeling, I had gotten messages that I would be moving into audible channeling, but it wasn't something that I was really comfortable with. And so they had me do it one time just to prove to myself that I could do it, and it helped me trust my channeled writings more, that they were bringing in this wisdom that I didn't really resonate with about wanting to do it out loud instead of on paper. And so I did channel one time for myself audibly, and I said that was enough, and we went back to writing again. And so once I started channeling for others, that was when I stepped into the audible channeling, because it was kind of cumbersome to have to sit down and write 12 pages for each person. And so I was ready to move into the audible, and it was a really seamless transition for me from the written to the audible. So, but that was kind of pre-paved along the way that I would be stepping into that more. And so I think my biggest resistance with the channeling was probably opening up and sharing it with others, because that wasn't something that I thought I would ever want to do, because I didn't know that I would want to step out in that way and put it out there that this is something that I can do and that I am doing. But even that has been an evolution with my consciousness too. As I have grown and expanded, I see how much it's helped me, and I'm all in for using this to help anyone else who's a match to it. I can't think of something that would be more joyful and more fulfilling for me to do with this. I really feel like so much has been given to me through this experience of channeling and working with the energies that I work with, which now they have a name. For the longest time, probably honestly until June of 2020, they didn't even have a name. They were just an energy that I worked with. And now we call them the light. So, but knowing how much they have helped me in my life and answered my questions, I absolutely want to share it with others. And I'm actually way more comfortable sharing it with others than I ever thought I would be.
Yeah, that's really amazing, Lori. So do you feel that it's a certain group of people who are drawn to it, or is it all sorts of people who are coming to you?
It is interesting because I do think that it's going to be all sorts of people that are drawn to it, but they have to have a level of openness and receptivity to it. I think there's a lot of humans out there that aren't open to it yet, or that aren't asking for that yet. And that's perfect. So it's not to say that they won't get there in time, and it's not to say that they have to get there in time. But my intention is just to hold the energy of the light and to send out that signal. And then anyone who's a match to it seems to find it. And so it's really quite easy and effortless. And again, my job is just to hold that signal of who I am and what I have to offer. And then those that are a match to it can find that signal and find me in the process.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And where do you see you and the light in the future? Do you have a feeling around how it's going to evolve?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to keep expanding. I think it's going to keep unfolding and keep growing. I see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger through time. I know that when I started, I didn't even know if I'd have anybody that would show up to the calls, but now I have a pretty good, solid core group of people that show up, and more people keep finding me. And so I see it just unfolding like that at the perfect pace. And I also know that it's not, which is huge progress for me, really, but I know that it's not up to me to force it and to push it and to make it happen. It's really to allow it to unfold in the divine right way and the divine right time. And it already is. Like, I can say that just looking back to the couple years that I've been doing this, that it really is unfolding in the divine right way and the divine right time. And every piece that I need along the way has shown up right in the right timing. And so I am open to it expanding as big as it wants to, and to as many people that are a match to it. And I'm just going to let the inspiration be in the moment. I'm going to follow that guidance in the moment and just keep holding to that pure intention that I want to offer it to anybody who's a match to it, to anybody that would be served by it. That's really my core intention with it. And those are the people that I want to share it with, and that I want to really open up to that with, because really it's not that anybody needs this to be okay. It's just that if it would be of benefit to them, then I'm all in for sharing it.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to hear, Lori. I really love to hear about your whole journey and everything that you're doing now with the light, and that you just chosen to take this one step at a time, and sometimes quite a leap, but really done it anyhow because you felt that this was the right way for you and the right path for you. So now, again, if people want to follow you or listen to your calls or book a session, can you repeat your website name?
Yes, it's www.lorimcmurphycoaching.com.
Yeah,
and there I have a weekly blog, and I do private channeled sessions, and also I have a monthly group call. That's a channeled Q&A call.
Yeah, so that is going to be very, very exciting to people to listen to or to read more about. And you also have on your website so people can listen to them and see if they want to join the group. So that is really, really exciting. Okay, Lori, I think it has been so inspiring to hear about your journey and your awakening and your two sons and your channeling business. And thank you so much for wanting to share this with us. Is there more you want to share with everyone here?
Oh, well, I think that this has been amazing, and thank you for this opportunity with you as well. I'm so appreciative of the chance to share this with others, and if it helps even one other person, then that is absolutely perfect. And I think it's probably going to help and inspire even more than just one. So that is perfect too.
Yeah.
And as far as, right?
It's a
As
big
far as
fantasy.
more things to share.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I feel complete with it. I think that this has been awesome. And I look forward to connecting with anybody who wants to connect more. So I think that this has been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lori. And thank you to everyone who listened today. I'm wishing you all a beautiful day. Bye for now.